What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another 2026 movie review. And I believe this came out back in theaters in January, and it is currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video. And we are talking today about 2026's movie titled Mercy. I think there's another movie out there called Mercy with Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan. That is not this movie. This movie, 2026 is Mercy, stars Chris Pratt as Detective or Officer Chris Raven, and then there's also an AI judge in here called Judge Maddox, played by Rebecca Ferguson, and those are like the two stars of the show that have majority of the screen time. And the little synopsis on Letterboxd for this reads, "Prove your innocence to an AI judge or face execution. In the near future," which I think it's set like 2029 in LA, but in the near future, a detective stands on trial accused of murdering his wife. He has 90 minutes to prove his innocence to the advanced AI judge he once championed before it determines his fate. So like the little synopsis that I can give you for this is like, Chris Pratt is an officer who has been here for the Mercy program, and the Mercy program is like replacing the old court system. So now it's just a guy in a chair and he has 90 minutes to prove his innocence or he gets executed, you know what I mean? And I think they said something like 18 people have gone through this before him, and now as a police officer he's charged with the murder of his wife, and he, wakes up and doesn't have, he's knocked out and he's like doesn't have a whole lot of memory of like what happened, and then it starts coming back to him, and over this 90 minutes he starts using his detective skills and like just his gut feeling to figure out what's going on here and find out who the real killer is. So like for a good half of the movie, I was sitting there going, you know what? Chris Pratt's guilty. He's guilty as hell. He did it. He's the one that killed his wife. And I was like, oh, is that what this is going to be? He's going to be locked up to the chair this whole time. We're going to find out that he's actually a bad guy. But no. It's more of like a whodunit, and you go through the whole movie, for at least half the movie, and you're like, it's him. And then you're like, wait, maybe it's not him. And then you're like, okay, so who else could it have been? They had a barbecue. It's people from her work, and you slowly but surely, unveil these pieces of the puzzle, and like she was sleeping around on him, he wasn't being a good wife or a husband or a father, and he's got drinking problems, so there is some of this movie where Chris Pratt has shot those scenes, outside of this like courthouse, but for the majority of the movie he's locked, handcuffed to this chair in this like virtual box pretty much, and it probably is just a sound stage with like the virtual reality walls all around him so that he can be put into any location, and they keep putting that chair in various locations, and then it's like him and Rebecca Ferguson are like talking the whole time, and she's trying to prove his guilt and he's trying to prove his innocence, but then like at a certain point she's like trying to help him, and then like her AI code is not like computing, and she's like struggling with her own code because she's getting humanity side of things through Chris Pratt that's like messing with her code. I don't know. It was interesting though. It was enough like that I watched the whole movie and I was like, oh, this is an interesting idea, an interesting take. But, getting into like the whodunit of everything, most people that I've seen review this on Letterboxd, I have one friend that has 4 stars, the rest are at 2 or 2.5 stars. I think I'm maybe higher on it than a 2.5 star, but I'm maybe not as high as a 4 star, but I liked it though, it was like good enough that I was like, okay, this is good, but like, I don't know, there was also parts about it that I didn't really love, and like his partner, Jack Diallo, played by Callie Reyes, the whole time I knew she was dirty. I was like, there's something up with this bitch. She's got to be in on it, or she's got to be dirty herself. And then we find out that she was dirty in like the first court case. She like ditched a phone that the guy had on him to make him look extra guilty, and he really wasn't all that guilty, so she's just as guilty as the other guy who actually did the killing, and he's like Robert Nelson, who is actually Robert Webb, who got adopted and got adopted without his brother, so his brother ended up being the guy that was in the first murder case, and he's like doing all this for revenge, and he was like Chris's sponsor for AA, so he's like, I've known you since the day I met you, I've been playing in this. And like his wife, Annabelle Wallace, was playing Nicole Raven, and she gets killed, so we don't really see her a whole lot in the movie. But, you know, Chris Sullivan plays Rob Nelson, who ends up being the guy who's behind all of this. And I was like, oh, and Chris Sullivan I thought was David Deadman the whole time. And then I looked at his little letterbox here and I was like, huh, he's been in 25 films. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and I was like, what was he in that? And, you know, you scroll way down, and Chris Sullivan, where are you? He played Ladbrock, which he probably was just one of the pirates on Davy Jones's ship there in Dead Man's Chest. But he was also Taserface in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I was like, where else do I recognize this guy from? And I think he's Benny or something like that in like the season 1 of Stranger Things. And I think he gets, you know, murdered pretty quick. But I think he's the one who like feeds Eleven like a waffle or a burger or something, and she's like woofing it down. But I think that's him. But either way, Chris Sullivan, this whole movie, I was like, oh, I got a feeling he's the bad guy. And then there was only one other guy, Holt, played by Rafi Gavron, who I was like, he's probably guilty too, but then that was a misdirection. And then like the daughter, Britt, gets taken, played by Kylie Rogers, and it says she's been in 17 films. She seems to be an up-and-coming actor herself. Very young, born in 2004, Jesus Christ. I'm getting old. You know, if I think 2004 births are old, now she's 22, 2004, Jesus Christ. Oh, you know, like, I still think in my mind, if you're born after 9/11, that's too young for me. But, you know, overall for me, this film, I enjoyed it, but there was some parts I didn't like about it, and like things I didn't like is the fact that he's trapped in a chair for 99% of the film. You know, I would have wanted to see Chris Pratt doing a lot more. You know, he's a much more capable guy with action and stuff than people really let him do. And he's getting older, so maybe he's letting the stunt double do a lot more stuff. But overall for me, I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars, about a 7 out of 10. If I had to give it a true 10 score, it's probably like a 7.1, you know, just into that 7 for me, almost a 6. But like things I didn't like about this, and like there's certain parts in the film where like he's calling people to like get, you know, their, you know, talk to them about trying to prove his innocence. And every time that they call him, I understand this is like how phones work, but like, why do we have to keep seeing in movies shots of a cell phone and somebody on FaceTime, and we see the vertical screen and then it's like just blank on either side? Like, I do not want to see cell phones in FaceTime in movies. Like, it really bugs me, you know? Like, and if anything, it's making me go, oh, I hate today's stuff so much, you know? Like, all I want is to go back and, you know, watch medieval stuff. You know, like there's a medieval werewolf movie coming out later this year by Robert Eggers, and there's no cell phones in sight, and you know, that's the type of vibe I think I'm on now. You know, like I can't deal with the modern stuff because everything's just like this. And the parts where like he's FaceTiming these other people to like talk to them, it felt like this one other awful movie that came out last year called War of the Worlds, and like not the original one, the one with Ice Cube. And like the movie's not bad because of Ice Cube, the movie's just bad because of like how they did it. And like everything is shot with Ice Cube in this one room, and he's like FaceTiming everybody, and everything's just shot on cell phones, and it's like so poorly done. And there was just a few scenes in this that reminded me of that, but for the grand scheme of things, I was like, okay, he's well, let's figure out who's the killer, you know, let's prove our boy's innocence here, you know. So I bought into that aspect of it, where it was like, hey, my wife got murdered, it wasn't me, let's prove my innocence in this chair, you know. And he's got to like talk to Judge Maddox and Rebecca Ferguson's character and like go back and forth and be like, okay, let's get the security cameras from my neighbor's house back here. Let's get this person on a phone call. Let's call this person. Let's track the cars that were heading to my barbecue, and let's track them on the way home. You know, like, and slowly but surely he gets more and more information that leads him to finding the true killer, and it's like, okay, I'm here for it. I really am. You know, and I was willing enough to stick around to the end, and I thought it had a decent ending. Could it have been done better? Maybe, but also, you know, it was under 2 hours. You know, it's a 100-minute movie, a little bit over an hour and a half, so it's like, it's not a crazy amount of runtime. You know, it's not like a 2.5-hour movie where you're clawing your eyes out for some dumb shit like this. But at, you know, hour 40, I think it's an acceptable movie at 3.5 stars. Any longer, I probably wouldn't have liked it. Any shorter, I might have liked it more, you know, I don't know. But definitely, if you're gonna have Rebecca Ferguson and Chris Pratt, you gotta use them a little bit more than you did here. You know, for the two of them, like, she's in a booth just talking, and he's in a chair just talking for majority of the movie. Like, sure, they do a good job from those perspectives, but at the same time, like, that had to have been a pretty easy payday for the two of them, you know? Like, they didn't have to go running around, they didn't have to do action, they did, you know, they were just there, talking, you know? Like, I think I would have probably liked this gig as well if it paid well. But from director Timur Bekmambetov, oh boy, he did Wanted. Oh, okay, I like the swag of Wanted, but you know, he's done some other things like Ben-Hur. I've heard good things about Ben-Hur in 2016, but I haven't seen it. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter in 2012, I remember people liking that. Night's Watch in 2004, interesting, okay. Yeah, I haven't really seen a whole lot of his films, but Wanted was pretty good. Oh, he was a producer on that War of the Worlds movie with Ice Cube. That's the problem. I found the connective tissue. He used his producing from that movie and was like, oh, let's do Mercy. Nope. Nope. Yeah, no, this is... Yeah. I shouldn't have looked at the director. So the problem with this movie is not Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson. It's clearly the director. But also I liked his work in Wanted, so what are you going to do? But you got my score. I would love to hear your score out of 5 or 10 stars down in the comment section below. Or if you want to chat more about this film on my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. Once again, my name is Big Cam. Thank you guys for making it this far into the video. And if you would like to support the channel further, the best way of doing that is dropping a like on this video, commenting down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss future movie reviews and you get the notifications when those come out. Once again, I'm Big Cam, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next one. Peace.